Alright, we're back in another video. And, yes, if you could tell, my quality is a lot better. Because I got a new, set that includes a little microphone with the headphones. So, yeah, my videos are gonna have better quality now, so, have fun with that. So, I guess judging by the timeline or the video, you know what the video is. What if Joseph died instead of Caesar? Now, to a lot of people, this seems like a random what if. But, however, to my older fans, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, haven't you done this what if before? And to that answer, yes I have. Now, you're wondering, why is this video being done again? Well, answer. My reason for doing this video again is mainly due to the fact that I actually want to remake some of my videos. These are video timelines that either A, had a lot of potential but I screwed over, or B, videos that I just never really got the chance to make, or were just kind of screwed over. So this video is one that I kind of want to update a timeline for. Now, this technically is going to be, I guess, a what if within a what if, because the original one I did, I will address a change that happened that I made, but I'm going to address another change in this version that kind of changes the timeline as well. But yeah, it's kind of more of another version of that what if. So yeah, but yeah. And one more thing I want to say, and I know I'd be like, enough with the chit chat, let's go into the video. I have an update on this channel. Now, no, this is not some kind of bad news update. In fact, I'm gonna say this might be pretty much good news. Because I'm kind of gonna start a schedule again soon. Kind of. I'll explain more when I get to the end of the video. If anything, if you're not a JoJo fan and you're watching this video, but you're a fan of my channel, I recommend you get to the end of the video. I might even loop it into a timestamp if you guys want to see it, if you want to see the update, and I will tell you it that way. That, or I'll just make a giant community post actually telling you guys about it. But this idea I just came up with, and I honestly think that this is going to help me motivate me with the channel. I'll explain it when I get to the ending, but yeah. Enough with the chit chat. Let's actually start the video timeline, because I feel like a lot of people are here to hear the video, or the what if timeline in particular. But while you're at it, I guess you can hear the new schedule, because I'd say it's going to be cool. But yeah, let's go and let's actually get to the JoJo what if. Okay, so we start off the bat with JoJo Part 2. Now, at this point, mostly everything's went the same. You know, we've gotten the same stuff that's happened in the canon Part 2. Everything at this point, the same rundown. We're getting everything happening that originally happens. Joseph versus Straizo. Straizo becomes a vampire. The battle with Santana. The Pillarman discovery. Meeting Caesar in Italy. Meeting Lisa. Yada yada. All that, we've basically got the rundown. Until we get to the Walmoon Caesar fight. Now, in this timeline, I think there are 3 ways this timeline can go. Or at least multiple ways. One version is Caesar gets defeated by Walmoon but just doesn't die. And just gets knocked out for the rest of the story. Another one is he loses, but he just doesn't. But he's still around for the rest of the story, I guess. Maybe the fight ends with, I guess, both with Walmoon running away or something. I don't know, which seems out of character, but I'm probably not going to include it because I don't think it makes sense. Another scenario is that Caesar successfully kills Walmoon in this timeline, or another scenario is that Joseph, let's say, runs in the way, pushes Caesar out of the rock and gets crushed in his place, or Joseph is the one who charges in to fight Walmoon in Caesar's place and ends up getting killed, and he ends up losing to Walmoon and getting killed in the process, like Caesar. Now, if we're going with a route where, I guess any of these routes, if we're going with the first case scenario, nothing would honestly change, but except we'd need to find a way to kill off Joseph, and if you're wondering my excuse, I'm just going to assume Joseph dies to cars, like how he originally did, or how he's about to. In this alternative universe, we'll say that Joseph's fake-out death is a legit death. Joseph does die to save the universe from cars. So, Joseph's dead, like in the canon. And if we're going that route, you could theoretically do that. Caesar just gets injured against Walmoon and Joseph just dies saving the universe from cars. That's one way we can go. Now, another way we can go in this timeline is that Joseph's able to. Now, another way we can go is, I guess, a route where Caesar's able to kill Wamu, which, if we're going that route, then I guess Joseph can still die to cars, but with Caesar around, he's probably doing his own thing, probably helping against cars as well, I assume. I mean, he could theoretically he could theoretically prevent ultimate cars. I don't think he would personally, and I'm just going to assume cars still becomes the ultimate life form. We still get that whole thing going on. And that is a scenario that actually could happen. And I guess that could still lead to Joseph dying. That or Caesar just is able to prevent ultimate life form cars from happening, but maybe out of anger because they prevent the ultimate life form thing from happening, Cars kills Joseph, like out of anger, and then Caesar could just kill him after that, which is a scenario you can go with if you want. Now, I guess another scenario is Joseph dies to Wamu. Now, if we're going, I guess, the scenario where, let's say, Joseph gets crushed by the rock, either saving Caesar or just charges in to fight Wamu and gets killed. Now, if we're going the route where Joseph sacrifices his life so Caesar doesn't get crushed by the rock and Joseph takes his place, well, to be honest, I'd say this would affect Lisa a lot, that her own son literally died in a battle. Probably would cause her to go through more depression, I guess. Caesar's probably just hurt and would not understand what's going on, and he'd probably just be up for the rest of the battle tendency. This basically means Lisa has to deal with the Pillarmen alone, and realistically, Cars would just destroy the entire universe. Yeah, Caesar's probably too injured, too weak to fight. Lisa would have to go against Cars all by herself, which leads to Cars still cheating out Lisa to win. And not only that, but Lisa would also have to fight Wamu, which I'm pretty sure Lisa might be able to win, since Wamu is a lot more honorable, and Lisa was able to blitz through Cars, and I doubt Wamu would have actually use a stun double like Cars and would probably just get defeated very easily and would just accept defeat and not cheat out some kind of W like Cars did. Now, that is one route we can go, I guess, but I'm pretty sure Cars would just win if we're going with the assumption that Joseph just pushes Caesar out of the way and gets crushed by the rock. Now, let's assume Joseph runs into battle. Joseph's the one who goes in. He goes to challenge Wamu instead. Maybe in this timeline, Joseph does it because he's desperate to get that poison ring out of his mouth. Caesar tells him he's an idiot for it and that they need to still train. So in a way, the roles are reversed. In the case of Caesar, he still wants to avenge his father, but that's on the back burner. He would rather train to become stronger. And in the case of Joseph, he feels like he's strong enough and he's very arrogant and thinks that he can just take the poison ring and just stop this whole thing from happening. This causes Joseph to run in, battle not Cars, but Wamu, and this leads to Joseph versus Wamu. Joseph would do a lot worse, granted, but I'd say at a point, we'll say Joseph screws up like Caesar. He's about to get a W with his clacker volleys, maybe leave some kind of opening for Wamu to jump him, and Joseph gets hurt. Maybe he takes the ring, heals himself from the antidote, kind of as one last middle finger to Wamu, I guess. But before that happens, he gets crushed by the giant rock, but maybe he can create some kind of last bit of hormone, maybe out of his scarf or something, gives it to Caesar, who, let's say, takes the hormone, and it basically empowers Caesar. Kind of like how the last of Caesar's hormone was used to get Joseph stronger, the roles are swapped, and Joseph uses the last of his hormone to help get Caesar stronger in some kind of boost. So it would be a stronger Caesar now, with a hormone boost from Joseph's death. Basically switching the roles around. Now, after this, I don't think much would change. Obviously, we still get everything with the Pillarmen's, I guess, employee guy. I don't even remember his name. The servant guy who Lisa one-shot. But I guess if Caesar's going against Wamu in Joseph's place, I think Caesar would do better, mainly due to the fact that he's a ranged fighter. So I actually think he would be able to beat Wamu here, unlike Joseph. I mean, actually, Joseph did beat him, but I think Caesar would actually be able to win, unlike he did in the canon. So Caesar can actually pull out a W here. Now, Cars versus Lisa still happens, and this leads to Caesar versus Cars. At the end, with Caesar being a ranged fighter, since Cars is basically going to hold him hostage like he did with Joseph, Caesar should realistically just send out his bubble cutters while Cars is just taunting and slowly walking up to him. That or he does his bubble lenses, and that with the Stroheim UV lights should be able to stop Cars a lot quicker and also save himself and Lisa while at it. They're able to get out of that Cars can still become ultimate life form, and maybe Caesar can just pull a Joseph where he just gets lucky and wins. Realistically, Caesar should not be lucky enough to do it, though. Maybe they find a way to blast him into space, some other miracle. That or Caesar just pulls a Joseph and just gets lucky, loses his hand, by some miracle survives, and everything goes the same. Maybe Suzy Q saves Caesar, and that leads to Suzy and Caesar getting married after part 2, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that is honestly how part 2 goes in this alternative universe. And yeah, now we'll go to the other parts. Now, I will say, when I first did part 3, I went under the assumption of a timeline where Joseph just has a one-night stand with Suzy, and that creates Holly, like in the canon. Now, let's assume... Now, in this timeline, I'm going to assume this does not happen, which was very unrealistic, and I only really did it to have an excuse to have a Joestar in the story, so we could keep Jotaro and Jolene. Now, in this timeline, Holly does not exist. Joseph cannot have her. The Joestar family was wiped out the moment Joseph died against Karzawamu, depending which timeline you would rather go with. Now, in this timeline, this leads to Caesar to be the one who has to extend his family, even though he's already got brothers and sisters who could also help out with that. On a side note, another scenario I could see is Caesar actually becoming a Hamon warrior, or at least taking the more Hamon clan thing serious. With no Joseph there, and there at least needing to be more Hamon users, I feel Caesar would be more motivated to train, and if anything, he would actually get more Hamon help. I actually think, if anything, there would be more Hamon users in Part 3. Now, when it comes to the story, I could see Caesar still having a son, Gaius, which leads to Julius and Rose existing, and this would basically lead to Julius and Rose kind of replacing Jotaro in the story. You could theoretically just remove one and make that said character the new Jotaro, but I'll keep both of them in because I would like to include both of them in. Gaius, Caesar's son / Julius and Rose's father, could still die, and he'll stab himself with the arrow, so he gives his kids and Caesar the stands that they need to fight Dio. So that gives them an excuse to get their stands. Now, I'm going to assume Caesar does actually get involved with the Hamon tribe in this timeline from Machina and Lisa, I guess. And those two could actually motivate Caesar to continue his own Hamon training with training more people. I mean, there's no Joseph, and at this point, Caesar would kind of just need to be the one who needs to train them at this point. So if anything, Caesar could just train more people, and if anything, there's actually a chance Caesar would probably try to find a stand arrow, or there's possibility that, like, let's say Machina can get a stand arrow, or like Lisa could get a stand arrow. Give it to the Hamon tribe and maybe train them to a point where some of them can control their own stands in some way. This could definitely lead to some unique hacks out of this. As for how many characters I'm adding in, I don't really have a specific number. I would like some ideas for Hamon stand ideas is maybe one of them stick into a Hermit Purple situation. You know, you just keep one of them as Hermit Purple so we can have our Hermit Purple fighter in the story. As for other Hamon stand-like abilities, one idea is maybe a Hamon healing stand. We never really got to see Hamon healing to its full extent, so we don't know what it can and can't do. So we don't know if it can prevent wounds and stuff like that, which I would actually like to add in, which I actually think would be a cool idea. Kind of a Hamon healer. Another idea I thought would be cool is a Hamon stand that could predict the future or the fated future. Kind of based off Tom Petty being able to see William Zeppelin's fate. The idea of a stand that can do it via Hamon hacks just sounds really cool to me. But I don't know if it'd be like Tom Petty's. I think it'd be more like Doppio and Diavola, where it can only see a few seconds into the future, not too much into the future. Kind of gives it a nerf, but at the same time still a very OP stand. I actually think that would be a cool idea for something like that. Any other ideas? Maybe something that can be very goal experience like life-giving based, kind of like how Jonathan was able to give life to a dead tree. Maybe a water Hamon stand, but then again, Rose kind of already fulfills that role, and Jolie says the electrical role. I don't know, man. This is kind of a tough timeline. But I guess when it comes to stands, these are just some ideas I have in my mind. I don't have all the OCs here fleshed out yet. I'm going to probably add some OCs to this story. If you guys want to talk about this in the comments and just kind of flesh out a timeline with me, I would honestly be cool with that. But yeah, I don't really have much to say here. Now the question is, who's gonna join the Stardust Crusaders? Well, Avdol would not probably be there. Unless you use Fate as an excuse to get Avdol to still be part of the story. Maybe with the Hermit Purple user being there, it depends on how early they awaken their stand. But maybe in this timeline, I'm assuming it's going to happen after Caesar gets a stand. He finds a stand arrow or something. Maybe he hunts it down and takes the arrow, hunts down an arrow and takes it for himself. It's possible that he can hunt down Avdol, or maybe the Hermit Purple user, or maybe our Hermit Purple user can have themselves use the stand to find where Avdol is, and because of that, we know where Avdol is, and maybe he can still be part of the team, but it's kind of hard to say. Now, with Polnareff and Kakyoin, they were only there because of their flesh bugs, and they were enemies working for Dio. Now, I assume with the team we have, we can still find a way to defeat Kakyoin and Polnareff, but the problem is the flesh bugs. Now, I did say there's a Hamon healer. Now this is where we can use the excuse of the Hamon healer maybe using his or her stand to grab onto the flesh bug, pull it out, while also healing the wound, basically destroying the flesh bug while healing Kakyoin and Polnareff's brains from the inside. This basically undoes the effects of the flesh bug, healing them in the process. Kind of a cheap way to undo a flesh bug, I know, but I'd say it's a good excuse to keep Kakyoin and Polnareff on the team, and I'm just going to say we'll use that for the sake of the story. And I'm going to keep Kakyoin and Polnareff in, because why not? Now, as for Iggy, I think this could still happen. I think Caesar would just be the one who owns the Speedwagon Foundation, and I feel like at this point they could just inform Caesar about Iggy, because by this point, stands would be very common to Caesar by this point, and he would go and hunt down Iggy, kind of like how Joseph did. Probably bring in his Hamon tribe with their stands, and they can just defeat Iggy together. With multiple of them, they probably like jump Iggy or something, I don't know. Now, I guess other ideas is whole horse joining could be cool. Maybe. Now, I'm thinking it's a maybe because whole horse joining could be one of those things where it's like he joins maybe after, let's say there's a girl on the team and whole horse being the nicest of women. He joins because there's a girl on the team, wants to hit on the girl, typical whole horse stuff. Now, after that point, I don't really think there's much else I could say, except that it would be cool to have whole horse kind of just do that because of that, and he can become an ally, which would be cool because I like whole horse. Nodal as an ally is something I think would be cool. Like maybe Caesar's the one who fights Nodal, Caesar saves Nodal, and Caesar talks Nodal. It basically reminds him of like him fighting Wamu all those years ago, whether it be in the spot of Joseph or whether it be him killing Wamu in this timeline, doesn't really matter. Caesar basically just remembers that time him and Wamu interacted with each other. Now, at that point, that would basically kind of cause Caesar to be like, I think you're a cool guy. I would like for you to join our team. And then Nodal can join them. He didn't have a flesh bug on him like how Kakyoin and Polnareff did, to my knowledge. If he did, then we could just use our Hamon healer, our Hamon stand healer to prevent that from happening and destroy the flesh bug. So, yeah, Nodal could actually be part of the team. Now, I'm still kind of working on a team. As for how many characters I have in mind, I'm still working on some stands with some Hamon. It's possible we can get a fire stand user here in the story to replace Avdol, but maybe their fire has Hamon like kind of style to it. I don't know. Like I said, I like the idea of a character who can predict the future, but like maybe a couple seconds or a couple minutes in the future, kind of like Diavolo and Doppio, rather than similar to something like Tom Petty's. I would like to maybe see, I guess, what's his name? Would have liked to seen a Hamon user that can heal with their stand, which I think would be a cool concept, and that'd probably just be my excuse to how Kakyoin and Polnareff can join the team. Now, against Dio, the team's screwed, realistically. Now, I'm gonna say, for the sake of the plot, like, if we're going with, like, younger Darby, Vanilla Ice, and Dio, I think with younger Darby, they can beat them if they have the right team members. Let's say maybe one of the Hamon tribe characters they have, let's say they're a master gamer. Like, let's say he or her is a pro gamer. Maybe they just take the place of Jotaro, or they just or someone else can lose first, and then maybe Kakuin's the one who does it, because Kakuin has enough prep time to prepare for younger Darby in this timeline. It doesn't matter. Let's say I'm pretty sure younger Darby can get defeated, just depending on who they have in their arsenal right now. Now, when it comes to Vanilla Ice, someone's gonna die regardless. It doesn't have to be Avdol. Now, you could say Machina maybe is still here at this point. Let's assume somehow he's kicking, and let's say he's part of the story. I would probably just throw him under the bus against Vanilla Ice, most likely. That, or you can have a Hamon, or you can have one of your Hamon Warrior OCs kind of fulfill that role that Machina could fulfill. Like, regardless, it's Machina or it's going to be an OC, Hamon OC. Doesn't really matter. Don't think it's Julius and Rose, but probably one of the Hamon OCs can do it. I still need to flesh out their stands and their names and their personalities, but I will kind of update parts, but I will probably update this timeline to an extent via comments and stuff. I won't probably make another video timeline on this. But, yeah, whoever does it, let's say they have to fight Vanilla Ice now. We got Iggy on the team still, and we got some Hamon Warriors, and I think Whole Horse can be here. I'm going to add Whole Horse because I like him. And also we got Polnareff still. So, Polnareff, Iggy, Whole Horse, and then we have some Hamon people. And I would also add maybe Caesar here, but probably not because maybe he's dealing with younger Darby. Regardless, with all the help, Iggy's going to survive. Because with all this help, Iggy is going to be safe. They have more people to protect Iggy, so he never gets killed. So thankfully, Iggy doesn't get completely destroyed, and I feel like Iggy would just survive this part with all the help he has. So thankfully, our boy Iggy gets to live. Unfortunately, someone's going to die in the beginning in Avdol's place, but it doesn't really matter. Now, when it comes to the whole moving down the steps and Dio thing, that whole thing goes the same. And, yeah, I'd say the split up mostly goes the same, but I think instead Caesar would be the one who dies revealing the world's power. I don't think Kakuin would go with Caesar. I think Caesar would probably just bring one of his own warriors with him, one or two of them. We'll say the Hermit Purple user can go along, kind of fulfilling that Joseph role of having to go against Dio, while Caesar plays the Kakuin role, which is how I would write it down. So Caesar would die revealing the world's power. Kakuin is able to be given the message, or that guy's able to get the message from Caesar's dying breath. They're able to go to the team, maybe Julius and Rose or something, maybe Polnareff, maybe Kakuin, someone like that. They inform that Dio can stop time, bam, time stop, and then they get the knife thrown into their throat. Now in this timeline, this character might actually die. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. If you have, I guess, a life, I don't know. Now I'm starting to think about it. You could just use the OC. You could combine the OC who uses Hamon to heal with the one who can give life back to stuff. And I guess, in a way, you could actually recreate a gold experience that uses Hamon, kind of like Jarno Stand. Basically, Jarno Stand with Hamon, which is an interesting concept when you think about it. Actually, that might be the route I would go with for the healer. Basically, Jarno's healing stand gold experience, but with Hamon to it. Could honestly be cool. Only difference that I don't think it'd be able to make animals. That would be the only difference that would be it. It uses Hamon and it can't create animals or something like that. And also pain reflection. I mean, maybe it can have the pain reflection, but I think there can be some changes. I'm going to honestly need to work on these OCs, because this honestly does seem like a fun timeline to work on. But, yeah, so Caesar, I'm going to have him die revealing the world's power in Kakuin's spot. Now, in this timeline, I'm just going to assume the group just wins via strategy. I think with so many characters they have on this point, they can just gang up on Dio and just try to rely on strategy. Will there be casualties? Unfortunately, I think there might be like one or two. I could see like Whole Horse maybe dying in this fight. Maybe one of the Hamon OCs can die. I could see someone like that dying to Dio at this point. But I feel like Julius, Rose, Kakuin, Polnareff, and Iggy are safe. I don't think all of the Hamon OCs are dying in this part. As for how many I'm going to include, I'm probably going to include like 4 or 5, maybe 6. I mean, at this point, I would have Caesar, maybe Machina and Lisa, Julius, Rose, Kakuin, Polnareff, and Iggy, Whole Horse, they're on the team. And then the rest can just be some OCs that I need to make up on my own time. Uh, Regardless, someone's dying here, or I feel like a decent amount of the cast would be dying here. But with all the characters they have and all the help and the Hamon and the powerful stand users, I feel like they're going to have to get to a point where they're going to need to jump Dio, use some kind of strategy, maybe wait till the sun to come out, and then use their Hamon, their stands, and everything together to prevent this whole time stopping, undoing it, like just overall counter time stop in general. And maybe use the person who can see into the future, use that power to kind of predict when Dio would just teleport around randomly, use that to kind of jump him from behind with like a 20-meter emerald splash or like an armorless chariot attack or something crazy. Basically hold Dio off long enough to a point where all the Hamon users and all the powerful stand users can leave one powerful blast, destroy Dio's body, and then destroy his head straight after. Or maybe something like that. That would be their best bet. And let's assume for the sake of the plot that they're smart enough to do a good enough strategy and that they can defeat Dio, which I'm going to assume they do. Dio has been defeated, and part 3 is over. In my opinion, Caesar dies, and then some other characters are just going to die in the story. Like, Lisa, Machina, if they're in the part, I'm pretty sure both of them are dying here. Caesar's also dying no matter what. I can see 1 or 2 of the OCs dying. I don't know which ones. The Hamon OCs in particular. I feel like a majority of them can live. Maybe they're like younger people, so they can actually live on. Kakyoin and Polnareff and Iggy, I'm gonna have live. Whole Horse is a maybe. That one's more or less up for debate. And I'm gonna also have Julius and Rose live. So that's basically the story, and that's my idea for part 3. Moving on to part 4. At this point, when it comes to how part 4 is going to go, it's interesting. So, there's no Josuke in this alternative universe, but is there a way for the cast to go to Morio? Well, yeah, I think there's still a possibility. Now, let's assume for the sake of the plot, they still go to Morio, but under the circumstances of the stand arrow. This makes a lot of sense, since the stand arrow is, at this point, a very big deal. You have a couple of the cast who have disappeared into Italy with Polnareff. I feel like Julius and Iggy are going to disappear with them. And then Kakyoin and Rose are going to be the ones who investigate Morio. Some of the other OCs are going to tag along and go to Morio as well. And this kind of leads to an interesting split up of who's going to go with who. Now, like I said, I haven't really fleshed out all the Hamon OC stands at this point. I haven't really fleshed out this timeline to an extent, and this is kind of a rushed video to begin with. But I honestly think when it comes down to it, I'm going to try my best to say how I can imagine part 4 going. Now, I'm going to say Kakyoin and Rose go together, kind of like, I guess, like how Jotaro goes in the beginning. During this time, they bump into Koichi, like how Jotaro does. They basically help Koichi out, and they go and investigate arrows. Koichi maybe tags along with them for a couple minutes, then he goes to school, like how he canonically does. We'll say for the sake of the story, Koichi's kind of a protagonist in this storyline to begin with, and it's kind of from his perspective. Now, when it comes to the Angelo thing, let's say Koichi's there, and let's say Kakyoin and Rose find out. Let's say Kakyoin can just use his possession powers, undoes the effect of Aqua Necklace that's possessing the other guy, and Hierophant Green's able to prevent that from happening. This causes Kakyoin and Rose to have a target on their back. After this would lead to Kakyoin and Rose having to fight against Aqua Necklace, and this fight would be taking place at a hotel room. So, yeah, no household there. And also, Josuke's grandpa never dies. So, yeah, he's Rihohei, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't remember. He's alive. Tomoko's living a normal life because she never had that affair with Joseph, unless you're going to go Caesar route, and I'm not going to. You could if you want. If you want to create a, I guess, illegitimate son or daughter of Caesar, you can go ahead and make that up. But I'm going to just go with the assumption that in this timeline that Caesar doesn't go to Japan, because there's really no reason for him to go to Japan to begin with. Now, in this alternative universe, we're going to assume that for part 5, well, not part 5, but part 4, we kind of made it to a point where we're kind of at a similar place. Now, obviously, I guess Kakyoin and Rose can meet, and Koichi can go to the Nijimura house. Obviously, this means Koichi gets shot by the arrow, like how he does in the canon. Okuyasu goes in, and then Kakyoin and Rose should just be able to defeat him pretty easily. I'm going to say for the sake of the plot, maybe Rose being around is just able to use her Hamon and heals Koichi's wound. Not only that, but with maybe some more, but not only that, but maybe they can ask more Hamon users, call them in, tell them about everything, and then I guess more people, now I think about it, more people could probably come in. Now, when it comes to the rest of this arc, Keicho's death could be prevented. Kakyoin being around with his range is just way too good, and when Red Hot Chili Pepper goes to donut him, Kakyoin can just use the Hierophant Green Emerald Splash to scare him off. Not only that, but with at least one or multiple Hamon users, they can do some kind of positive-negative thing, kind of like how Joseph and Caesar did against what was her name? AC/DC when they were trying to save Suzy Q. Rose can maybe do something similar with her Hamon with the power chords. Maybe she's able to freeze down Red Hot Chili Pepper to a point where he can't do nothing about it. Akira is able to make an escape, but we'll say for the sake of the plot, he's still able to snatch the arrow. Keicho's able to prevent getting donut in this timeline because Kakyoin comes in clutch. Koichi still awakens echoes, we'll say for the sake of the plot, and then we get to basically that happening. After that point, we can still get to Koichi's arc with Tanami, and then we can get to the Hazamada arc, which would probably be different. Maybe it would just be, which I probably think would probably just be like Okuyasu and Koichi instead of Josuke and Koichi. Or maybe it's like Okuyasu, Keisho, and Koichi. But I think one of the Nijimura brothers can take the place of Josuke. We'll say it's Okuyasu, which I'd say makes the most logical sense. So Koichi and Okuyasu tag along together, and they can go against, what's his name? Hazamada in that place. And then nothing would change there. Koichi and Yukiko get their arc together. Nothing changes there. Tonio's arc, we'll say, I guess, I don't know who does it. Maybe Kakyoin and Rose. Maybe Koichi. Maybe Keicho and Okuyasu. Koichi Okuyasu. I'll say Keicho and Okuyasu. And I think Keicho could just play Josuke's role. Now, Red Hot Chili Pepper. This arc's going to be interesting. For starters, it was Jotaro that picked where the arena would be. So before you bring up the whole, Okuyasu's going to die in this timeline, you can kind of think again, because with there being different people, they could pick a different place, because this prevents, this could be a different arena they're going in. Now, let's assume we're at the same place, or in a place similar. Let's assume with all the characters here, I'm going to just assume Kakyoin can just Hierophant Green. He can just Emerald Splash away Red Hot Chili Pepper. That, or just everyone being long range, they're just able to prevent Red Hot Chili Pepper from trying to kill Okuyasu. Now, if they want, let's say if we go as far as to cut off Okuyasu's hand in the fight, I'm pretty sure Okuyasu would just be written off for a bit and would probably get some kind of mechanical hand or something. Kind of like how Joseph did after the events of Battle Tendency. I guess Okuyasu could come out of the ending of the Red Hot Chili Pepper fight getting like a mechanical hand or something, which would be kind of cool, not gonna lie. Nothing much I could really see changing after that. There's really no way that anyone can just like undo it. Even if we're bringing in the big new healer from like part 3 in, who has a gold experience style stand, there's really no way we can undo Okuyasu getting dragged into the amps and getting electrocuted. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Okuyasu is gonna die if that's the case, but I'm just gonna assume he lives because there's more people to help out. Now, as for the rest of Red Hot Chili Pepper, I do think there would be some changes for sure. I can't really think of all those changes at the moment, but I feel like there would be a lot of changes. Probably a different fight for sure. Obviously, another change is Shizuka, and we'll just assume maybe with someone from the Hamon tribe here in the Speedwagon Foundation, there's at least a stand user here who maybe finds out about Shizuka, takes her in, and then adopts her. Maybe it's Kakyoin, maybe it's some Hamon user with some kind of stand ability. He or she sees Shizuka, decides, you know what, this baby needs a mother or father, I might as well become that mother/father. I don't really think much could change after that when you think about it. I guess other arcs we can talk about would be the Rohan arc, which would mean this is not a good arc because Koichi and Okuyasu are kind of screwed. Now, okay, I think the only logical option here would be to have Keicho just be the one who saves them. And I'll just assume Keicho, due to his range, is able to save them. And him having information on Rohan, previous information, he's able to gun down Rohan with bad company and defeat him. We'll say that's what happens. Keicho's able to do that. He prevents Okuyasu and Koichi from everything that happened to them, and we'll say that happens. Rohan's lost, fair and square. After that is, I think it was the rat. Yeah, it was the rat arc. So, yeah, I'm guessing this arc would have to be 2 different characters. I'm just going to assume it's the Hamon tribe and something like that. We'll say it's some of the warriors from the Hamon clan, and maybe they can ask Okuyasu to help them. Or maybe it can be like Kakyoin out, bringing Koichi or Okuyasu to help. Maybe Keicho does. Maybe it's Keicho. Maybe they ask Keicho to do it because Bad Company is a long-range stand, so he'd be very useful. Maybe it's Koichi and Kakyoin, some kind of bonding experience since both have green long-range stands. Hard to say, but whoever does it, it's going to be hard to counter those poisonous bullets. But we'll say whoever our teammates are, maybe they have some counters to deal with those bullets. So if someone does get dealt with those bullets, it's pretty much likely they die, unless Hamon can just kill that, and we'll just say it does. Now for Shigechi's arc, we'll just... Also, the Remy arc, I'm going to say, goes the same with Koichi and Rohan. Next would be the arc with Shigechi, which we'll just say is Keicho and Okuyasu. And nothing would change, honestly, except Keicho, I feel like, would just play Josuke's role here. Cinderella's arc would also just go the same. It would just be Koichi and Yukiko's thing still. But now when it comes to Kira, this is where the changes begin. Okay, so when it comes to the Shigechi stuff, he still dies. Nothing preventing that from happening. I still think Shigechi's gonna still meet the team eventually, kind of like how he did in the canon. He just meets them under different circumstances and just meets different members, which I'm just gonna assume is Okuyasu and Keicho, or Koichi and Okuyasu, or maybe Koichi and the Nijimura brothers. I don't know. It's hard to say how we write that around, but whoever it is, Shigechi goes in. He still gets killed by Kira. Everything goes the same. So, yeah. After that, we get to, I guess, the Shirota Tech arc. So, that's going to be some changes. Now, for starters, this is going to be a different arc, because we still have Koichi, but we're going to have someone else who goes in. We'll say for the sake of the plot, it's Kakyoin. He's our new Jotaro here. He's going in, and he's the one who has to deal with sheer heart attack. And Koichi's obviously tagging along. Now, when it comes to arc, I don't think too much would change. I could see Kakyoin kind of starting off the same. Start off with some emerald splashes. Doesn't really work. Does a 20-meter emerald splash. Doesn't really work. This results in Kakyoin needing to have to save Koichi. Let's say he uses higher fence range, pulls out a match, and he's able to light a fire near him. Kakyoin's not able to escape. He gets hurt. But we'll say Kakyoin maybe he's not as badly injured. Or if he still is badly injured, it would definitely change some parts of the story. Now, Koichi still gets his whole evolution. Echoes Act 3, all that. Now, another thing that's important is Koichi still gets Donut. And there's going to be something important we got to really discuss in a couple of seconds. Because this is going to be something very important to talk about when it comes to Koichi. But first, we get Kakyoin versus Kira. And we'll say, for the sake of the plot, Kakyoin is able to defeat Kira. We'll say let's say Kakyoin's able to distract Kira with the nice watch thing, does a 20-meter emerald splash, and Kakyoin's able to just straight up haymaker Koichi. I mean, not Koichi, but Kira. Now, after this, Koichi gets his call-ins. The people who he's called in helps him out. And in this alternative universe, there's a pretty good chance that Koichi's going to die. So even if we bring in our Hamon stand user, who's got a gold experience style stand, we don't know how much Hamon can heal people to its fullest extent. Which means that Koichi's probably going to die. This is definitely a change that would affect the plot a lot, and it's definitely a big change for certain. So in this alternative universe, I would assume Kakyoin would at least be able to survive. I think in that case, maybe Kakyoin's wounds are bad, but they're not that bad, kind of like how Jotaro's were. Koichi's wounds were able to kill him, and Okuyasu even admitted that Koichi was at a point where he stopped breathing. So with a Hamon healing stand, and we don't really know Hamon's healing capabilities, I'm thinking Koichi would be dying in this fight. But for the sake of the plot, I do feel like Koichi would do something important to die, because that is something JoJo tends to do. So we'll say Koichi uses maybe the last of his powers to... I mean, well, Koichi's body would have never been exploded by Killer Queen's bomb, so maybe Koichi still has the wallet on him that Kira had. That, or if Kira still has his wallet and Koichi's not able to pick it up, maybe Koichi used Echo's Act 1 to put out some kind of dying message to reveal Kira's name and his address, which would probably be what he does. Something like Yoshikage Kira lives on Northeast Mario 33 Street, whatever his address was, I don't remember. And then Okuyasu and the others can take that information in, and they use that for when they do that. Maybe that happens later on in the story. I don't know how Koichi can use Act 1 to do it. Maybe he uses it on Kakyoin. Maybe taps Kakyoin with Echo's Act 1 beforehand, so if Kakyoin would ever wake up, he would die giving Kakyoin the information and the others, which I'm pretty sure we'll say that route. I actually think that route just sounds a lot better. It just, I don't know, it gives me a Caesar Kakyoin vibe, where Koichi used the stand for the last bit of his moments to reveal a dying message about Kira, which honestly sounds really cool to me. And also just makes Koichi just a lot cooler with his death. So yeah, Koichi would die, unfortunately, and Kira would still make his escape and kill Aya. And I feel like this would definitely cause the Kira investigation to become a bigger deal, because Koichi is now dead. And Koichi was basically the glue of Moria when you think about it. Now people are going to say Josuke's the glue. No, Koichi was the glue. If you get what I mean, if you're wondering what I mean by Koichi was the glue, Koichi was literally the most liked person by everyone. Josuke, while he was liked by a lot of people, there were some people who couldn't stand him, like Rohan. And I guess to an extent Yuya probably didn't really like him either, but we don't really know their relationship to a full extent. But Koichi, everyone liked Koichi. Like literally, even Rohan, a selfish narcissist, actually liked Koichi. Koichi being dead is generally a big deal. I feel like this would affect a lot of the Morio characters' mentality to a huge extent. That Kira would be such a threat that he's not only killed a little kid like Shigechi, and not only killed Aya, and he's not only killed a bunch of innocent women, but he killed probably the kindest person in their town. If anything, this would probably motivate more people to want to look into Kira. Like, I could see Yukiko for sure joining the team now. Now that Koichi's dead, I could actually see her helping out. Kakyoin would probably be more, I guess, motivated to help out, since I could definitely see him and Koichi bonding. I could see some of the Hamon warriors or Rose maybe like forming some kind of relationship with Koichi over the story as a mentor relationship. This can cause them to want to help out and look into Kira more. Okuyasu would be very devastated that two of his friends are now dead, both Shigechi and Koichi. I don't know how much Keicho would be affected by this death. I mean, I guess maybe he'd be somewhat sad. Maybe he feels somewhat guilty for giving Koichi a stand and is like, it's my fault. If I didn't give Koichi a stand, then maybe he'd still be alive. And that can maybe give Keicho his character development there. Maybe some more character development where he regrets what he did. For Rohan, it would be one of those things where it's like, well, at this point, he's killed his childhood friend Remy, and now he killed the only person he could tolerate, Koichi. So honestly, this would just turn Part 4 into a very dark part. For starters, this would mean that both Josuke and Koichi are out of the story, and now we basically just replace them for Keicho and Yukiko, which is a very interesting storyline, I may add. So we got a lot more characters here. We got a bunch of Hamon warriors, and not only that, we have Caesar's granddaughter Rose, and then not only that, but we would have Josuke, Koichi, and Jotaro out, and Kakyoin, Keicho, and Yukiko in. Okuyasu and Rohan are still there, obviously. Now, when it comes to the story, I can't really say how much would change. I guess we're running it down. Adam Hartfather could probably go the same, I guess. Just different characters fulfilling Josuke and Jotaro's role, I guess. Nothing would change there. The fight with the rock, paper, scissors kid can still go to Rohan. I'm pretty sure that still happens. That one fight. I'm thinking that one Part 4 fight. I'm thinking of some of the part 4 fights because there were a lot of like the later half. I don't have a good memory with these later half of the part 4 because there was kind of a lot of filler there. Alien guy Mikitaka. I guess Okuyasu and Keicho can do stuff with him. I don't know. I don't even know if Okuyasu would really want to have much of a reason to interact with anyone. If anything, I'm honestly wondering these slice of life adventures and whether or not if they would still happen. Maybe it could just be dedicated to Rohan. Honestly, I don't even know if the slice of life adventures could even go on, especially after the bombshell of Koichi's death. No pun intended with the joke bombshell, but you get what I mean. The death of Koichi's got to probably still be fresh on everyone's mind with him being the glue of Morio. Basically, I feel like since Josuke's gone, Koichi's basically the heart and soul of Morio. I mean, technically he was. I'd say both Josuke and Koichi were the heart and soul of Morio to an extent. But in a world where Josuke doesn't exist and Koichi's dead, Morio feels lifeless. Like, I gotta be honest, man. Morio just feels lifeless in this alternative universe. Especially after Sheer Heart Attack. The town of Morio just feels lifeless now. It's hard to kind of imagine everything else. Yuya would be a tough fight for sure, because I guess Rohan would need someone else to talk to. And not only that, but you need Koichi to use Echo's Act 3 to help out in giving them information. Now, let's say for the sake of the plot, you have two characters who could fulfill both a Josuke and a Koichi role. Let's say maybe it's Yukiko and Okuyasu, or Keicho and Okuyasu. It doesn't matter. That's gonna happen. I'm pretty sure Okuyasu, Keicho, doesn't matter. They should be able to beat Yuya, probably. Chaotic Thursday. Superfly fight. I don't really know if anything would change. Maybe just have someone else travel along with Okuyasu and Mikitaka, or just have, I don't know, something like that. Maybe it's Keicho, Okuyasu, and Mikitaka. I don't know how that fight would go. Hard to say what other fights would happen. After that, I don't really have much of an opinion on what comes next. There's the Enigma fights. I guess that could still happen. I guess that would change. I mean, it's hard to say how this fight would go because both Josuke and Koichi are gone. Because Josuke doesn't exist in this timeline, and Koichi died to Kira earlier in the part, and Josuke was the one who called Yuya for help, so I guess someone else deals with Enigma. I don't know how that fight goes. And for Cheap Trick, Rohan's gonna be screwed because he needed the help of Koichi. Now let's assume for the sake of the plot, it's maybe Kakyoin who does it. I don't think it makes sense. Maybe Rose can do it. I don't know. We'll say, for the sake of the plot, that maybe it's Yukiko with her hair. Someone is going to help Rohan out. Rohan calls in, asks for help. Someone helps him out, tries to pull out Cheap Trick, fails. This causes Rohan to do what he does in the canon. Cheap Trick has to look behind. Cheap Trick gets dragged to hell by the hands. And, everything goes the same. The Ghost Alleyway stuff. Kira still becomes Kosaku, and we still get the whole thing with Hayato and Shinobu. And we obviously get to the Bite the Dust arc. Now, the final fight of Part 4 is definitely a tricky one to say. Now, with there being a completely different cast, I really don't have an idea on how Part 4 can go. Depending on which characters are here, I do wonder how it would go. Now, for the sake of the plot, I'm pretty sure we are going to have to find a way to prevent Rohan from exploding to Bite the Dust, maybe? We'll say for the sake of the plot, Hayato's going to have to call in for help. So first time around, Bite the Dust happens. Rohan still gets killed. The big death loop happens. Second time around, we get Rohan dying again. That basically happens again. Then we get the cast meeting Hayato. And they die. Blah, blah. I don't even know what I was doing. It's speaking gibberish. Jeez. And then they die to Bite the Dust. You know, all that happens. That's kind of really it at the moment. Part 4, I guess that would kind of be tough to say, and then I guess that leads to Hayato needing to call for help. As for who he asked for help, maybe it's Okuyasu and Keicho, maybe it's someone else, maybe he asked for help from Yukiko, probably not, maybe it's Kakyoin, he asked for help. It really is hard to say who's going to call in, and this is kind of tough to say how this fight goes. I could see someone dying here to Kira because there is no Crazy Diamond. assuming someone ends up taking a similar bomb blast to like Okuyasu. Let's say if Okuyasu takes it like in the cannon, he's gonna die because there's no way to heal him. Let's say if it goes to like, let's say Keicho, let's say Keicho saves him, or let's say maybe everyone's able to eventually gang up on him and they're able to battle Kira. Let's say maybe like Rohan takes the bomb blast, or Kakyoin takes the bomb blast, or Rose takes the bomb blast, or one of the Hamon warriors does it, or Yukiko takes it. They're going to die to said bomb blast. I'm pretty sure someone's going to die to Stray Cat Kira, to the Stray Cat bomb. At least one character will. Hard to say who it's going to be exactly. I'll let you kind of decide your own. I maybe have one of the Hamon warriors die here, kind of, and they could maybe show off how big of a threat Kira is by killing a previous character. So yeah, a previous part character could die here maybe, which I'd probably go with that assumption. And then this can maybe give the group a rage amp, and one of them's able to defeat Kira, which I'll probably assume is maybe like Okuyasu, since by this point I'd say Okuyasu probably suffered enough. Maybe it's maybe Keicho can do it, so Okuyasu can be the one to kill Kira, which I think could fit as well. It's hard to say. Someone can maybe defeat Kira. Maybe it's Kakyoin who does it. Maybe it's Rose. I don't know. Someone's going to defeat Kira, and I think someone can die to the Stray Cat Bomb Blast. But that's kind of all I gotta say. There's really nothing else I could say for Part 4, except that this version of Part 4 would be darker, because Kira's going to get a lot more casualties in this timeline. Hey, on the bright side, at least Keicho got to survive. But, Koichi... yeah, F in the chat for Koichi, and, I guess F in the chat for anyone else who could potentially die to Kira in the final fight, since I'm pretty sure there is going to at least be one casualty. I don't think there'd be a lot. I don't think they're going to lose to Kira. I think just due to the fact that Kira is just not really good for combat, he would probably not win this fight. But, however, I do think that due to the Stray Cat bomb, due to the Killer Queen and Stray Cat's combination together, this gives Kira the perfect opportunity to do the Stray Cat Killer Queen bomb blast, and that should be enough to kill someone on the team. I'm going to say Kira can at least get off one kill, or he just doesn't kill anyone at all. But that's the final fight of Diamond is Unbreakable, and let alone Diamond is Unbreakable. Yeah, this timeline's darker. Let's move on to the next timeline, or the next two parts, shall we? And after that, we still get Giorno joining Team Bucciarati, as he canonically does. Now, at this point, everything from Part 5, at this point, like, post-Koichi leaving, everything from then on mostly goes the same. We still get everything that originally happened, the mission to protect Trish, the battles with La Squadra, the team betraying Diavolo except for Fugo, everything with Bruno being alive and dead, Abakio's death, all of that, it goes the same. Now, at this point, the next thing I would say is that the final fight of Part 5 would change, because Polnareff would have brought back up Iggy and Julius to be exact, and even more, because there'd be more characters around. Now, this final fight is going to honestly be a lot more different. Now, as for how this fight can go out, I don't really have an idea exactly on how I'm going to plot it out, but if I had to sum it up the best way I possibly can, with more characters around, I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot more interesting moments here. For starters, I guess the beginning half of Doppio carrying Bruno into the Colosseum could still happen, but however, there'd be more characters there to be with Polnareff. So Diavolo is going to have to, I guess, keep up his guard in this fight more. Now, I don't think they will jump to the conclusion of using Chariot Requiem off the bat, but I will assume someone's going to die here. Could it be Polnareff? Personally, I'm not going to kill him off here. I don't really think it would fit the story. Someone else could do it instead, though. You have a lot of characters who can fulfill that role of being a death spot to Diavolo. We'll say someone holds him off and gets killed. Maybe a Hamon warrior can do it. I don't know. Someone's going to do it, but Chariot Requiem is not happening in this timeline. Now, when it comes to the rest of Part 5, this one's a kind of tough one. Now, I actually think when it comes down to it, the beginning half pre-body swap could still happen the same, but I don't think it would happen exactly the same, because we don't have that whole thing of the body swap. They see Bruno dying, but I guess we can kind of get to a point where they go over to Bruno, carry him over to them, and they gotta plot out a plan. Now, Diavolo can use that time to obviously go after Narantia, but in my opinion, I actually don't think Narantia would die because I would sacrifice Iggy here. Now, you could have Narantia die if you want, but even if Narantia still dies here, I'm pretty sure Iggy's going to die regardless. But it just happened a little bit later on. I just don't think Iggy's going to survive Part 5, unfortunately. So I'm just going to make it so that Iggy dies, saving Narantia, giving him at least somewhat of a sacrificial death. And I guess in this case, Narantia gets to live. So yeah, good for Narantia. The rest of Part 5's fight would be a lot more different for sure. I could see Bruno sacrificing himself still due to his dying body and him just being at a point where he's just too weak to do anything. I could see there being some kind of sacrifice where he can maybe he does something similar to how Jolene basically turned herself into a donut from before Foo Fighters can actually donut her. Maybe he can unzip Trish's stomach or something before Diavolo can like donut her or something, or maybe he does something with like Mista or Jarno or something. And then that can distract Diavolo long enough for Diavolo to get angry and just straight up kill Bruno or something. Bruno can give Jarno the arrow, and then that can just lead to everything going the same. I think the final fight just goes differently here, but I feel like there'd be no Chariot Requiem, so Polnareff keeps his body the same. The entirety of Part 5 as a whole, or at least the final fight, would just be a lot more different. I don't know how to sum it up, but I guess if you're wondering my ideal survivor candidates and casualty candidates, I'll have one of the Hamon warriors die here to Part 5. One of them can survive, and I feel like Julius, Polnareff, and Iggy can live. As for how many Hamon warriors are here, I don't really know how many. Same logic applies with Part 4. I think there'd probably be more in Part 4 than Part 5, though. But I would assume there's at least like 2 of the characters here, 2 or like 1 or 2, maybe 3 characters in Part 5. I see more in Part 4 though, due to the whole, I guess, big town of Morio thing. There's, I guess, more of them could be around to kind of just help around and just walk around and stuff. And then I just feel like for the case of Part 5, it would just feel unrealistic for Diavolo to just hold so many people hostage, like maybe 3, 4, 5. But holding a bunch of characters hostage in Italy just seems a little outlandish. Like, I know Diavolo is strong, but I don't think he's that strong. But I am pretty sure there would be more Hamon warriors in Part 4 than Part 5, though. Jarno still gets GER and puts Diavolo in the death loop. I'm just gonna assume Bacchio and Bruno still die regardless, though. Narantia would live, in my opinion. You could have him die if you want, but I'm just going to have him survive personally, because I like Narantia. But I don't really have much else I can add to this timeline, so, yeah, Part 5 goes the same. Except for the final fight and the beginning half with Koichi. But minus from that, majority of Part 5, kind of the same to an extent. But that's just my opinion on Part 5. I don't really think too much would change. So, in this case, basically, we're back to a part where our previous JoJo does not exist. And that's Jolene. So, obviously, Jotaro doesn't exist, so Jolene can't exist. Josuke doesn't exist in this timeline either. Jarno's the only JoJo that basically exists, but I don't know if he'd be in this timeline. Now, in this timeline, I'm just going to assume Kakyoin and Rose may just have another daughter. Maybe they have a daughter that's older than Tenmei. And that's probably going to be a logic that I might have to go with here, which is probably what I would do. And then they can have a daughter who fulfills Jolene's role. And while that's happening, I guess we get the whole thing with, I guess, Kakyoin's older daughter being locked in prison. Kakyoin goes in to save her, gets his disc stolen, and then that leads to her wanting to save her father from Pucci. Now, I don't really think... Now, the question is how she would be in a Florida prison, which we'll say for the sake of the story. Maybe she knew someone, maybe someone from, I guess, America go to Japan. Maybe Pucci pays off someone to do it. And then she gets her to then talks Kakyoin's daughter into going into America for a bit. They do a hit and run, kind of similar to Jolene and Romeo. And then she basically ditches Kakyoin's daughter to go to prison. And then similar to Jolene, Kakyoin's daughter is framed and she's stuck in prison, Green Dolphin to be exact, where she can meet Hermes like in the canon. She can also meet Gwess, and maybe in this timeline, Kakyoin's daughter is different from Jolene in personality, so maybe she's a lot more polite and accepting of Gwess and lets Gwess join the team, which I actually think would affect the part. So yeah, I guess Gwess is now an ally, maybe. I still think we get Tenmei on the story, so yeah, he can be here along with Emporio. And I could see maybe more characters being here. I think Tolnorf can have a son. He can have Michael, his son. And then I could actually see maybe one or two of the Hamon warriors maybe having kids. We don't really have an age for all of them, but I could assume some of them can be in like their late teens, early 20s during part 3, making them all in their like late 30s to early to mid 40s by part 6. So I could see at least a few. So I can see like maybe one or two of them could have had kids by this point that can help out with Tenmei and Michael and the others. There would be no Mori warriors in this timeline, since I don't really think Tenmei would get really a close relationship with them. Now I'm pretty sure Tenmei could at least get a close relationship with someone else instead. Maybe there's a Hamon warrior that can be with Tenmei who could play that Josuke role. And then that could be the person who saves Tenmei in the punishment ward in Josuke's place. So Tenmei doesn't die. But yeah, I'm gonna say for part 6, when it comes to those changes, I don't really have much I could say here. The beginning half would probably be a lot more different, I guess. Depending on the stands, this would definitely affect the part. I'm gonna be honest. I still think FF can join the team, and I also think Weather Report can join because he only really joined to get his memories back. Anasui can maybe join. Just depends if Kakuin's daughter is someone who Anasui would want to be married to. If we're going that route and Anasui wants to marry Kakuin's daughter, then he could still be part of the team. That, or maybe Anasui just falls in love with like Gwest or something, or maybe one of the Hamon warriors have a daughter that Anasui can fall in love with instead or something. I don't know. We'll say Anasui falls in love with a girl and then decides he's going to join the team to marry said girl. Kind of like how he did in the canon with Jolene. But yeah, minus from that, if we got to make an excuse for Anasui to be a simp and marry a girl, we'll just say that's the route we go with. Would like for Rikil to turn good, since I feel like we need at least one Joestar to turn good, and plus I like Rikil, and he's the only Dio-san who I actually think had potential for redemption. So yeah, Donatello I don't think will be redeemed. He could potentially, but I don't really think he can. Ungolo is not getting redeemed since he was in an airplane, so you really can't prevent that from happening. Donatello could potentially be talked out of, but I feel like he could still be released throughout the reports memories, creating heavy weather. Hermes dying in the punishment ward is a possibility. Hard to say. Depends on how the story is written. FF is another one where it's kind of hard. I think they might survive. It just depends on what's going to happen. Just depends on, I guess, them having backup, which they could have backup. If they have enough backup, they could be saved. But it's hard to say. It's also possible that, I guess another change would probably be the final fight, but I don't really know how that's going to go. Yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on Stone Ocean, honestly. Especially the final half. Yeah, I don't really think I got much of an opinion on part 6. That's really all I got for this timeline. I'm willing to talk about this in the comments so I can complete this timeline, because I like doing that for some of them. If anyone's interested in doing that, yeah. But, what you think of the video, guys? What you think? I would say goodbye here, but, if you're not interested in the updates, if you're, like, new to the channel and you have no interest in these updates, or this is your one and only video and you don't want to watch any more videos from me, understandable. You don't have to. Just click off here. Goodbye if you do. But, yeah, let's actually go to the updates. So, I'm bringing back the schedules to an extent. So, I'm bringing it back around early June. And I'm going to do seasons to the videos. I'm going to make it more like a TV show season thing, where it's like one episode per like every week or 2 weeks. This is one of those things where it's not going to be a specific day. I think an every week or every other week idea is going to be what I do, but I'm not really going to have a specific date order. It's not an organized one, but it's going to be more or less an excuse for me to make more videos. Something for me to give myself that passion. To give myself that passion to do all these videos again. Because I gotta be honest, man, I've been dealing with creative burnout because of this because of having no schedule. It's honestly been miserable, man. And I honestly want to get to a point where I actually don't want to get burnt out on this channel. And I love this channel. Because to me, it feels like this channel just means nothing. And no, it does not mean nothing to me. And I want to prove it by doing this. I need this kind of schedule to at least get to a point where I can feel like I can be more active on this channel. I feel like I've kind of needed to think about it. I needed to pray about it to God. I needed a lot of things to mentally get me to a point where I needed to have that kind of peace in mind of what I need to do with this channel. And I feel like this was the right idea to do. Now, I will say when it comes to this seasonal thing, I'm only going to do a couple of requests and a few videos of my own. And then after that, I'm going to be closing requests for a bit. And I'm also not going to do any videos. And for the next few, probably 2-3 months, there's going to be no new videos. But however, I will then bring back those videos and kind of just do it again. And that will be my new idea for uploading. Basically, an entire batch where it's like, I guess an excuse is maybe Stone Ocean batch release, but I guess batch releases and batch release videos, but instead they're weekly to, I guess, every other weekly. To be honest, I think I like this schedule. It's not stressful to an extent. It gives me a break, while at the same time it also gives me a well-balanced schedule to make videos. So I'm not just laying around doing nothing, and at the same time I'm actually and I'm not stressing myself out over doing too much work. I feel like this schedule is going to work, but I will say if I get to a point where I get stressed out on the schedule, I will understandably pull the plug on the schedule. Now, if I get to a point where I get too lazy and complacent, but however, I know for a fact I can go back to my once-a-week uploads that I used to do, then I will go back to those once-a-week uploads. This is generally something that I'm trying to improve on this channel. I am still trying to improve this channel every time I get the chance, and I don't want to give up on this channel. I've worked hard. I know you guys have been entertained with my videos, and generally to a point, I don't want this whole channel to be a waste. I know you guys love this channel just as much as I do, and I want to make you guys entertained. I want to go in 100% and make these videos worth it. I'm trying to show more personalities in these videos. I'm trying to have more fun with these videos, trying to think outside the box with some scenarios. Hence why I did today's video. I'm trying to make better quality, with this microphone kind of styling, trying to make these videos sound so much better, have higher quality. I'm trying to overall make this channel honestly worth watching. That's what my entire end game is. That is the goal of this channel, to make a watchable YouTube channel that people can look at and have fun with. And while we're at it, we can still do the whole comments and discussions. Even while I'm in break, I actually like doing those. When fans want to talk about timelines on my videos, and I can make these comments, these long comments, and I can read these long comments. Those are fun to me, honestly. Those are generally fun to kind of socialize a bit. And you know what? I actually like doing that. Not only that, but doing these videos are fun. I just have a lot of fun with this channel. It's just, overall, it just makes me happy. It's just a great way to honestly let out all my emotions and just have fun and just stop talking about serious stuff and just, talk about something goofy and stupid. You know what? You get what I mean, guys. I really hope that this schedule is good. I'm honestly hoping so. This schedule is not taking effect to this month. Next month it will be taking effect around June, early June. I'm doing the schedule, and I'm hoping that this is going to work out. This is a big time deal, and I'm actually getting to that point where I think this is going to work. This is me thinking outside the box. I'm going to go through with this season, or I'm going to try to go through with it. If this ends up blowing up in my face, then so be it. So, yeah. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you next month in June when I hopefully get this schedule all in and all working. And see y'all next time. Peace out.